Hi, friends. Today I wanted to do a sort of in process reaction with you to another YouTube creator that I love, Dr. Kurt Honda. Did this interview series with his mom, and I just had a really strong reaction when I first heard this exchange with Dr. Honda and his mom. So I haven't listened to it other than the first time, and I'm gonna play it through and kind of pause it and let you know my reactions as we go. I'm also trying out new tech, so forgive me if it's a little bit clunky. Here we go.
We're our own people, me and my
Yes.
siblings, and we developed in our own ways. But there are some pretty obvious personality.
Okay, what they're doing is they're responding to questions that were submitted with Dr. Honda and to his mom from his community, and they're asking about the influence of mom, and she's going to start to get into some disclosure about her own experience of parenting, and it's just resonates so deeply with me myself, my own experience of how I understand my parenting, but then also many other people that I know have this experience of parenting, and it's you'll be able to hear from the way she's talking about it that it's definitely an internal understanding of herself and her son, and in fact all of the children in the family seem to disagree with her perception that she wasn't that great of a parent. So that's where we come into this is at 31:54, just for the if anybody wants to go back and play this. It's called Mom Interview, Chapter 3. Mom Self-Esteem is the chapter that we're on.
Through lines and lessons that you gave us that I think you should be taking credit for. I should mention that after we stopped recording last time, you were worried about the upcoming questions having to do with parenting and daycare and stuff. And I thought, well, what's the worry? We don't have to go into that. But after I kind of prodded for a bit, you revealed to me that you didn't think you were a good parent or a good daycare facilitator. And I was like, what? I mean, of the things that you and Dad should hold tremendous.
I just already am fascinated that with as close as these two are, and Kurt himself is also a father, so to really be this surprised about his mom's internal understanding of herself, I find that refreshing because clinicians, we're not clinicians everywhere in our lives, and it's just I don't know. I guess reassuring to me that I don't necessarily need to have insight on every person who's in my own little sphere of influence. That I don't own that responsibility, and so the fact that he doesn't know this about his mom, I find it refreshing. I hope that's okay.
Tremendous pride in is the obvious skill and adeptness and choices that you made as parents to just don't even consider your personalities or like the things you did well. Just the fact that there weren't problems. You didn't drink. You didn't hit us. You didn't swear. No one swore in our house. It's kind of a detail, but it tells you something about the lack of chaos and the lack of yelling, the lack of hurting each other's feelings directly.
Well, and I came from that background
where people would yell and swear.
Alcohol, hitting, swearing.
Yeah.
It was all there.
Yeah. And quite an accomplishment that you would turn that around, so effectively. We couldn't tell each other to shut up. That was a swear word.
Or call one another stupid, or anybody stupid.
We couldn't say fart. We had to say let one.
Yes.
And
you couldn't hate.
Yeah.
You couldn't use the word hate.
Right.
I hate this.
Yeah.
You could say, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it a lot, but you couldn't say hate.
Right. And, these are rules, but what it illuminates is this, what the listeners will often call me wholesome. Maybe that's something that I could also attribute to you.
So they're just kind of getting warmed up to the topic. And of course, Dr. Honda, as clinicians, we experience so much of the negative side of family life. Like, people don't go to therapy because they're creating a wholesome atmosphere. They don't go to therapy because, they felt seen in their childhood and validated and are happy with their parents' choices. And those aren't the topics that come up in therapy. Usually people are breaking down some difficulties. And so you can hear that in his exploration with his mom, like, wait, you didn't do any of the bad things. How could you possibly, you can hear it's just incredulous. How could you possibly think that you weren't like creating really an ideal environment? And if you listen to any of the rest of this interview, you'll hear what a fabulous mom she is, and was in their childhood. And it's just so remarkable to hear that, know the kinds of choices that she was making around her parenting, and yet she still experiences in herself as less than.
The listeners will identify me as being wholesome and nice or something, and so I get that. At least I developed that within the environment that you created. Secure attachment. People know that I talk about that all the time. The attunement that you and Dad had. I remember just feeling completely safe going to bed. The two of you would read stories or and kiss us goodnight, that kind of thing. Life had its ups and downs, but in terms of the things that I hear, not only from my clients, but my friends, like, are largely absent when I was a kid. Not only that, but also the example that you set, the stability, the honor, the treat each other well, the non-narcissism, the we're not any better than anybody else. I'm not any better than anybody else. Giving back without trying to be flashy about it. You would give to people, whether it was at church or parents at your daycare who couldn't afford the daycare. You didn't tweet about it, so to speak, or whatever. You would just have to hear about it, through back channels. And I'm sure we only heard about some of it. So, but most of all, just the feeling that I had growing up that you and Dad knew me and cared about me and didn't overreact to things,
So I just love this interview so much for many, many reasons. Dr. Honda is definitely an attachment-focused kind of clinician. He talks about it a lot in his podcast, and his member-only spaces, where he goes into some pretty deep level of information about attachment. But he's talking about going to bed with a sense of secure attachment, that he felt seen, that he felt the attunement, and you can hear this like intense like validation of, look how amazing you were, Mom. Like, just almost wishing that she could internalize that for herself. I get that. I do.
There wasn't a flip out around this or that. And when I cried, you were there. And when I was laughing, you were laughing. It was all that. And there are so many other things you could have done. You could have been in a bad mood. You could have done your own thing. You could have had your own hobbies. You could have taken your anger out on each other more or something. I don't know. There's just so many things that could have happened, fallen into addiction, or even the fact that we never moved, especially for me and Kevin.
Yes, that was pretty major.
Yeah. I mean, the more I experience other human beings, the more I learn that for people, even if the family's doing pretty well and you move, especially if it's a few times, the disruption to your life, to your friends, to your safety, to community is traumatic for a lot of kids.
Well, there's a curious memory regarding that. You were about 7 and you thought it was time to move. You brought it up to Dad and I and said, so let's get moving. Let's find another home.
Why?
I don't know where it came from. Maybe you had a friend who was moving and you thought it sounded adventurous.
Just going to scooch forward a little. It's a cute little story, though.
But each of you proclaim, would tell me, show me in various ways. That's real and deeply appreciated and recognized.
Let me just rewind that a little, because we can hear Mom is getting a little emotional. And
wonderful women.
Who?
That I think, well, I could have done this and I could have done that.
At the very least, you felt good, but you feel bad about your parenting. You feel bad, and Dad's this way too, I know. You feel bad about what you did. That is a complete crime, Mom. It's just like, it's not okay. And I have failed as a kid, and my siblings as well, to not, we say it all the time, but you don't absorb it. Like, apparently you don't absorb it. You think we're just being nice or something?
Yes. It's very difficult to recognize the impact you have as a parent. Because as a parent, isn't it? Well, it is for me, that I think, well, I could have done this and I could have done that. I should have done this better. You might see for the moment or think, well, that's good. We had some good laughter or something, but you don't see it as canceling out what the possibilities to do better.
And this is the part where it really starts to resonate for me in my own experience of parenting. because, I think I now am in a place where I can call myself mostly a good mom, mostly a good mom. But I would say for the first 20 years of my parenting journey, um, I did sound exactly like what Sue sounds like here. It's not that I wasn't doing a good job. It's compared to what I think I could have done. And there's this idea of like the gap between what is and what could be. That's where the pain is. Like if you know what is possible, what would have been outstanding, great, better, healthier, different, whatever. And even if this lower level is very, very, very good, your own kiddo is telling you, and apparently all the kids in this family are telling her like how much they valued her as a parent and how much they attribute their sense of well-being and their success in life to this great start with mom. And mom has that, but also knows, well, there was other potential. And you can hear in her voice, there's a lot of pain about that gap in between as she gets emotional. I think also, he's so affirming. He's trying to tell her how terrific she is because she really was throughout their childhood, like just very intentional parenting with an eye towards how do I bring out the best in my kiddos clearly. And you'll hear that in all of the interviews that they do. And Kirk just trying to like, I wish that you saw yourself in this way. It reminds me of that. Like if you could see yourself the way that other people see you, you wouldn't think those things. And you could just hear his like urgency to like have mom understand that about herself, which I love that. I love that intensity.
So, yep, I'm tearing up at the moment because it's just a very hard concept to take in. I've always said this about Mother's Day, how it's very uncomfortable to be singled out as a good mother, because I just see many mothers who overcome so much or are so full of wisdom, full of courage.
Like who? Like what?
I don't know, but the world is full of excellent, wonderful
but
mothers.
Who? Identify one person that you could identify that is a better mother than you.
I like that challenge, of course, but emotionally just really connected to that experience of how uncomfortable she felt at Mother's Day. Because Mother's Day is so complicated. And for many of us, and this is the part where it just landed so strongly for me, for many of us, the highlight of motherhood, the focus of Mother's Day, this intense focus on like, women sacrificing so much to be the mom and do all the right things. And then you're placed on a pedestal for the day. And I too have always struggled with Mother's Day. And I know many people who do. And Sue is doing such a good job of articulating why that is and exploring the emotion of it. I just really appreciate her explanation and her attempt to try to explain what is such an emotionally intense issue that's, I think, very hard to put into words. Even now, as I'm trying to describe it, I'm having trouble finding the words for it. So let's listen to Sue.
I don't feel I measure up to all the wonderful women.
Who?
There are just many. I don't have names, but
like famous mothers who.
No, think about it. Think of the mothers who struggle day to day, the single moms, the moms who are working multiple jobs, the moms who are able to create art and
I wouldn't have wanted you to create art. That would have bugged me if you. All I wanted you to do is to pay attention to me.
Well, there are just many wonderful women who manage to do that and be good, strong
This is like
mothers.
this is I don't know, your parents in your head or something. You feel like you're not worthy of Mother's Day. That's really a tragedy, Mom. What's that voice?
And I love that he kind of gets into, you know, the reason why she's got that internal dialogue. And you can hear that she's trying to wrestle with, like, you know, just the, you know, other people who are doing so many other things. And that's, again, that sort of that gap between, you know, what you're doing and what you know to be, you know, what your potential might have been. Is just so clearly painful for her. And again, her son just working so hard to help her understand herself otherwise. They continue like that for a bit. And it is quite lovely to hear an adult son. It helps that he's a clinician, really get in there and like try to help her. You could hear how much he longs for his mom to have a different understanding of the kind of parent that she was and how meaningful that was, and how much he attributes that to his success in life and his relationships. And I just, you know, am really so grateful to Sue and to Dr. Honda for sharing this content. It's really vulnerable and really beautiful, and resonated deeply with me. And I hope that you find this helpful. I'll see you on the next one.